I want to talk with you about streaks again. So we talk about streaks all the time. It's one of my favorite ways to bet, or my favorite things to talk about. That's why I do a lot of things like the Paroli system or the 1-3-2-4 progression system. I like those kind of plays because craps is a very streaky game. And what I want to talk about with regards to streaks is this concept of variance. And I don't want to get into a whole math lesson with you, but I'm going to show you a couple of things that I think will hopefully make this term make sense, and maybe we can find some ways to, I don't want to say capitalize on it, but be aware of it in the moment. So let's define a couple of things. And by the way, there's better videos on this topic than what I'm doing right here. I'm not a mathematician, but there's guys that have great videos. I'll link them in the description that you can watch later on that really explain how variance works mathematically and how it works in gambling across different games. But for our purposes here, variance is defined as the deviation from the expected outcome. That's all that it is. It's when we see those spikes, and I'll show you some win craps here in a minute, the spikes that we see, the peaks and valleys, that's variance. It's, you expect it to be here, but it's really kind of here most of the time. And that's what variance is. A trend, or what I call a streak. People get really mad when I use the word trends, but trends or streaks are moments of variance. Moments of, I would say, intense variance is a better way of even saying it. When you see the big spikes or the big valleys in an outcome series, that's a trend. That's a streak. That's a 5 in a row. That shouldn't happen, but it does. It happens all the time. Those are the things that I want to talk about later today. But over time, there is no variance. And this is where the casinos make their money, right? Over time, we say time heals all wounds. If you're the house, time heals all wounds because the house has the edge on every bet. So they don't care about variance like you and I do. You and I experience variance, as it says here, in the moment, right? When you're in a moment of variance, you're getting 5 in a row or 5 in a row, you're experiencing it in real time. The casinos don't care about real time because they have the edge. So over time, when variance levels out, they don't care about it. They're okay with you winning a bunch because they know you're going to lose a bunch. And they know there's going to be areas of chop. They're going to make money all the time because they don't deal in the world of variance because they have time on their sides. Okay, they have an edge and we don't. We experience variance in the moment, right? And it's your job as a gambler to either seize that moment or leave that moment. Remember that, seize it or leave it. That's a really important thing. And I think that your money matters, right? I think we manage your money smartly in those moments, right? Things will turn out in your favor. And I was talking to somebody who experienced this in real time, and that's what got me going here on this topic was you have this idea of, okay, we're going to do a thing and it's going to take this amount of time, or over the course of this many whatever rolls or whatever thing you're counting is, you know that, and I'll show you in win craps, you can start at 1,000 and you can end at 1,200 almost every single time. That's great, right? But in the play, during the play time, you're here and you're here and you're here and you're here and you're up and you're down and you have these little chops and you're up and you're down. And although at the end of 1,000,000 rolls, you end up ahead most of the time, during the 1,000,000 rolls, there's periods of time where you're way up and way down. That's the variance. And you got to learn how to play and be in the moment when that's happening. So that's kind of what I want to get into here next. And again, variance, we define it as the deviation from an expected outcome. And what that means is simply this. We'll use, and everybody has the same example, right? The coin flip, 50-50 coin flip, right? You expect 50-50, right? Every time you flip a chip like I've got here, flip a coin, it's definitely a 50-50 shot every single time. The casino makes money because if you were to bet $1 on heads every time and you won $1 every time, nobody'd make any money. That's edgeless. If the casino said we pay $1.10 on heads instead of $1 on heads, right? A little 10% house edge to it. Now it's an unfair game. That's how the casinos make money. Over 1,000 flips of the coin, they're going to make 10 cents on whatever on every head. Every 500 times they're going to make 10 cents. Over billions and billions of outcomes, they make money. That's how casinos work. We live in not that world. We live in this world of, well, okay, fine. I'll bet the tails, right? I'll bet more to win less on tails because I know that there's going to be times where tails comes 15 times in a row, right? That's live variance, right? The closer you get to infinity, the closer you get, the more rolls you run, the closer you get to the expected outcome, right? If I were to flip the coin one time, 50-50 shot, right? If I flip it 10 times, you might get, I don't know, you might get 4 or 5 in a row. But if I roll it 1,000 times, you might be at 502 to 498, right? You're really close to the expected outcome the more you get. When I get to 100,000, it's 999 to, 999, whatever, to 1,001. The more you get closer, the variance works itself out. The math always works in the end, right? That's your lifetime at the casino. That's the casinos every day, right? The casino lives in that world. You live in that world too. You just don't know it, right? You live in that world over the course of your entire life of playing. You will not experience variance if you add up your first time ever at the casino to the day you drop dead. You'll probably have not any variance. You'll be at expected outcome, believe it or not. But when you're there, right? When you're there, if you break that 1,000, that's 502 to 498 into sessions of 10, into 100 sessions of 10 rolls, right? Think about 10 rolls of 10 flips of the coin, 10 flips of the chip as a session. How many times will it be 5 out of 5? 5 and 5, 5 heads, 5 tails, right? Out of 10 sessions or 100 sessions of 10, maybe 10-15% of those will be even Steven, where it's 5 and 5, 5 heads, 5 tails. The rest of them will be 6 to 4, 7 to 3, 3 to 7, 2 to 9, whatever, right? You're going to have all over the place. That, my friends, is variance. All those sessions of 10 where it's not 50-50, that's when you're at the casino. That's the day. You're there, you got your chips on the table, you're making your bets, and you're in a 6 to 4 like yesterday. Yesterday was actually in a 7 to 3 variant down with the don't pass, right? We won our don't pass 7 out of 10 times, which doesn't normally happen. That's an odd variant there, right? It could have been the other way. Last week, I was in a variant where our pass line player won every single day. We had great outcomes, right? I was in a really ugly don't pass variant, but a really positive pass line variant, but it was a short-term window. We were here for this long, right? I was here for this long. It seemed like long because I wouldn't shut up, but it's a short period of time in the aggregate, if you look at it that way. So I experienced variance the last couple of sessions, last week and yesterday, because we're looking at these little windows, not looking at our enormous window. And when you're in the middle of playing an enormous window, if you're in a 4, 5, 6 hour session, and I'll use the Atlantic City trip that we were just on as a good example. We were in a long session. We experienced variance. Even in that long session, we had a couple of really great rolls, but there were times. There were guys that came out there and beat you 4 or 5 times in a row before the next variant showed up. Okay, so it's a real thing. It's, like I said, it's how the casinos make their money. It's also how we can make our money. So I want you to work your session, okay? And just be in the moment. Be in the moment. Be aware that, when you have an advantage, right? We want to make sure that we're cognizant of this, right? A lot of math folks say there's no such thing as money management. It helps you none, okay? I don't know. I guess I understand why they say that, but the truth of the matter is this. If you set a win goal, if you have a loss limit, and you're willing to get out when the getting's good or bad, right? That amount of discipline can help you ride the variant wave when you're on it and get off of it when it starts to crash, okay? You want to bet more when you're advantaged. Bet less or get off or get out when you're not advantaged, okay? And you ride that wave until it crashes. That's the way you work this thing. And when I talk about money management and trends and discipline in my rack, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the variant in the game, right? As a hedge better, if I'm doing the hedge thing or the hybrid thing, I'm riding it. I'm riding the wave, looking for the variant. Boom, get that spike and get out, right? If you're playing the hybrid game, that's what you're doing. You're willing to tread water and lose a little bit of money, right? In that moment, waiting for the big one, right? That's an okay way to play. If you're going to play don't pass, for example, I'll give you an example on the don't pass in a minute, but don't pass, for example, when you have the advantaged play, that's the time to go in, right? If you knew the coin, right, was going to land on one or the other more often, you'd probably bet heavier on that one if you knew it, right? There are times in the game where you know that. Craps is a game where it's a negative expectation most of the time, but there are times where it's not negative expectations. So let's talk about that at the table. All right, let me go over here and get you to Windcrafts. I want to show you one thing, just a quick example that I did yesterday so you can see. Again, I like to dial in where I can see it. Hopefully you all can see this. Let me switch to that screen view there. And here's a simple set, right? I'm doing a don't pass only bet. This player over here is just betting the don't. This other player here is betting my don't pass, which is basically a don't pass and a don't come with a little bit of odds protection. I'm just gonna run this out real quick and give you a quick look at length of time and what that variance looks like. I don't know if we're gonna win or lose here. Let's just see what happens, and I'll stop this at a point, but you're looking for this. We're gonna start out here, if you can see my mouse, at this 100,000 or this $1,000 mark, and you're gonna watch the trend of this shooter. Here we go. Let's start the hyperdrive and see what happens. I'm gonna stop it right in a minute here. We'll stop it right there. Okay, stop. I stopped it perfectly. Take a look at where we are. Okay, this is variance at work, or non-variance at work, as it were. We started out with $1,000 bankroll, right? We currently have 950. Our best was 1150. This is a straight, flat, ugly ass don't pass, right? No odds, no progression, just $25 don't over and over and over again. Look at how the casino sees it, right? The casino sees no variance. At the end of the day, they're down 50 bucks on you. If you played this thing as we just did here, how many rolls did I get? I got 505 rolls. That's about 5 hours of play, roughly, right? They lost, in this case, an aggregate of 50 bucks. They don't care about the 50 bucks, right? Because they know that later on they're gonna win. There was times in here where they were down. If we stopped the thing over here, they would have won more money. You, at some point though, had lost a little bit. You can see your total. If I do a control S here, if you can see your totals here, I'm circling it there. At some point you were down to 725, and at some point you were up to 1150. Not a lot of variance, but if you actually zoom into this thing, let's zoom in. Let's go a little bit deeper into here. And let me get that thing off. There we go. Whoop, scale back this way. Look at that. We get into here and look at the variance when you get closer in. So here's where, if you look at this first set of rolls in here, again, this is roll 1 to 525. This first section, let me do that again. I'm going to change my color too so you can see red. There we go. Look in here. Look at right here. You have a variant right out of the gate, right? We come out of the gate here with probably 10 wins in a row, right? Over the course of 500 rolls, right? And I'll show you the actual numbers here in a minute. Over the course of 500 rolls, we probably lost, I'm going to guess, somewhere in the order of 220 or 230 of them. But there's that where you won a bunch in a row. There's this bad sequence in here where we got our ass kicked. Another variant. The don't pass loses 10, 11, 12 in a row in here, okay? These are the moments where you walked up, won some money, and got out. You walked in, let's say you walked in right here, and you went right down in the shitter. You gotta be smart enough to get out of there. You gotta say, I'm done. I gotta walk, or I gotta change, right? When you're in a variant that looks like this, or looks like this, or looks like that, or trending back upwards again, like you are over here, that's where you change tactics or change your bet amounts. And that's, I want you to start thinking about, what are you gonna do in those moments? Now again, here, we're don't pass straight up. This chart would look the exact same if it was pass line. It wouldn't look any different at all if it was pass line, or if it was just 6 or just 8, okay? On those basic house edge kind of bets, you're gonna see it look like this. Let's take a look actually here. Let's go back over here. I want to show you the totals, the summaries of this rollout. So this rollout here, again, this is 500 rolls, so it's not a huge sample size. Let me get this thing if I can make it bigger. We had 136 total points set. We won 55 and we lost 61. We tied 19 times, okay? Which means outcomes were even in our favor. We had 29 times where we only had 1 win in a row. We had 13 times with 2. Our parolee would have hit 8 times at a 130. Good to know, right? And that's actually a pretty stable percentage to look at. The parolee hitting 8 times at a 130 is actually about right. It's about a 10% or so-ish time that you hit that. You should know that. There were a couple of big ones in here too. And I also track the consecutive losses as well. We had 35 times with 1 loss, 16 times where you lost twice in a row, 8 times where you lost 3 or 4 in a row. at 130. So there's your aggregates. This is, again, a way that I use win craps. Again, it's a short window. It's 500 rolls. It's not enough to give you any kind of statistical anything, really, other than, let's go back to the keynote here, other than to give you an idea of starting point to ending point. If you look at only the start and the end and say, oh, my strategy is great. Over 500 rolls, I only lost $50. A lot of people do that. They'll run the strategy and win craps, get 1,000,000 rolls and go, great. From start to end, I won $50. That's a great strategy. But you're not looking at how many spikes and valleys there are and how deep the valleys are and how tall the spikes are. How volatile is your strategy? When I look at win craps, and let me go back there again because I think it's important to see. When I go to win craps and I look at this, I want to get a sense of overall volatility. How big and short or how big and deep are my peaks and valleys tells me a lot about the strategy that I'm playing, right? If you want high volatility is the way to win, right? Low volatility is the way to stay even or lose less. So flat bet on the don't, you're not going to vary much. You're going to be up 100, down 100 most of the time. Flat bet in the don't with a max odds, way bigger variance, right? If we look at the other player that was playing with 2 bets, if I can get him to show up here, I'm not sure I can. I don't know why this thing won't. It's locked. Why is it locked? I locked myself up. Let's go back over to here again. I'm not sure what happened there. But I can't get into, let's go back to this and then back to that and see if I can't do it now. Can I lock in there now? There we go. Okay, sorry about this, guys. I'm going to switch screens again. There we go. So this player who's playing don't pass and a don't come versus the player who played the don't pass only experience the same rolls in different ways, right? A little bit more volatility for one player versus the other. Just be aware of that. When you look at large sample sizes like this, a large sample size will always give you the 2 endpoints. You got to dive in and see how volatile is it. At this point, you've hit your loss limit a bunch of times before you got out of it, right? Are you in and out? That's the question you have to ask yourself as you're playing kind of this way. So there we go. That's your lecture this morning. I didn't mean to do that. I wasn't planning on doing a lecture today, but last night I got to talking. I'm like, you know what? We're going to talk about this because when you experience a long series and you're going to be up and down, you're in that variant flow and you've got to understand how to get in and get out and recognize where you are. So all that said, I know it's been a long time talking. Let's go play some craps. I'm going to the table here. Okay, so there's a quick synopsis on variance. You might call it trends or clustering or streaks, whatever you want to call it. It's about catching a series of good outcomes for yourself in a row or recognizing a series of bad outcomes and getting the hell out of it and moving on and playing your strategy in a way that's more conducive to winning based on conditions and the reality that every single roll is not going to go in your favor. It's also not going to be choppy 100% of the time. Anyway, as I alluded to in the previous segment, we did a live rollout of this. Now, this video was filmed as part of our Coffee and Crap Show live. There's a half-hour live rollout. If you want to watch that, click the link right below here. You'll see the video, which, again, has the same lecture part in the front, but about halfway through is a good half-hour segment. We roll this out, talk through variance, and actually adjust to a table trend in real time. Hope you like that. Hope you watch it. Thanks again for watching. Appreciate all the comments. Like, subscribe, tell your friends what we're doing here. And again, I'm John. This is Pro Craps, and we'll see you in the next one. God bless.